I'm going to explain to the people, anyone, two or three people that may pick up this video, why Australia, and the inland of Australia in particular, will no doubt run out of water under the present usage of it and the present engineering and technological standards that are presently undeveloped within Australia, that would then prevent water shortages to some degree. It's the idea that it is all down to climate change is a very good excuse for a lot of people to make an awful lot of noise over about and to cover up the actual truths that involve, and that would teach the Australian inland towns to become more self-sufficient. They've got to manage themselves rather than allow dictators, ships from the New South Wales central government itself. They need to all become organised, although I think that might be difficult for them for parochial reasons to overcome their own problems. They seem to be having difficulty having the discussions required that would then, and that's the biggest difficulty they have. They seem to rely on a voice from the government or a celebrity or something to tell them how to be. And that is a problem. They seem to be difficult in generating new thoughts or doing inquiries for themselves. First of all, the biggest problem in inland towns of Australia that rely on the riparian system, the rainfall, the river itself, is sewerage. The great mistake is sewerage. And the biggest mistake is they've built these sewerage systems without measuring that they know how much water is required per household unit to keep the toilets flushed, plus showers and washing, etc. So they know there's a mean average per household for how much water they require. And that just goes through the system, straight out of the rivers, and does not get recycled, it just gets wasted and evaporated under the sun. And that alone is emptying the river systems. It's not climate change. It may be the dams up the river system may have an effect, but mostly it is not recycling the wastewater, which is just a bit of engineering that can be done, and that should have been done in the very first place. In trying to, instead of looking popular, the people involved should have done some calculations and worked out how the extra cost of recycling the water, which then has a long-term benefit of not running out of water. You've certainly got a supply of water constantly flowing through the system, getting wasted. And because it seems to be denied when you put the question to certain councils that you can recycle the wastewater, it seems to be denied that London itself recycles its wastewater over and over again. So the 15 million people there do not run out of potable drinking water. But that is a problem I don't want to go into just now. That's a parochial problem, living in denial of a solution to a system and causing your own town to become living on the precipice of water shortage all the time through simple lack of action. And the amount of money spent on trying to prevent climate change in wind generators and solar and all that sort of nonsense, actually, that money or part of that should have been used. The energy from a wind generator can be then used to recycle the water to create the apparatus, to drive the apparatus, and that recycles the water and pumps it back into the system. Now, how it gets pumped back into the system, that's something that we can have a variety of solutions to that. But the best way to do that would be to pump it back into the rivers itself once it's clean enough to go into the rivers. And if it can and that's a system that needs to be evolved and developed within Australia, because water is more vital than anything else for keeping Australia alive as a living organism amongst the people itself, if you look upon it that way, rather than a political organism or a system corporations simply take advantage of by using various methods and particularly using climate change as the be-all excuse for all actions or non-actions, if you like. And that's the major cause of Australian inland towns running out of water is one shortage of long-term planning. They could have easily by now, with the billions they've spent on pretending to be stopping climate change, putting all that wind generation, they could have easily spent, it wouldn't have cost that many billion to deliver the Bradfield system, which requires about 700 kilometres of piping, to then deliver that water into the riparian system itself and into the basin. It would soak, some of that could be soaked back into the basin itself, the actual artesian basin. That could have been easily kind of done by now, with all the time they've taken and money spent and all the hoo-ha and cacophony in regards we are saving the planet, we are saving climate change, when in fact they're not taking any action that would prevent damage by climate, regardless what causes the climate change. Now we know also that the greatest cause, science, anyone can check it, science can easily prove that the Antarctic grows 100 million tons of H2O in the form of snow upon itself each year. And because it's higher elevation in the centre of the Antarctic, it's the highest continent, that pressure is lower at the edges. The gravity itself causes ever greater pressure, 100 million tons of pressure, pushes the ice, the greater and greater mass and volume of ice, into the seas and cools the seas down, the southern oceans down. It has been doing this for thousands of years. So the drought aridity within the centre of Australia is going to get worse and worse and worse. And whether the authorities know this or acknowledge this or ignoring this, I cannot say for certain. I know all I can say for certainty is there's been no planning. There's a parochial sort of ignorance amongst the town councils in the inland who refuse, when they've been said you should recycle your water. There's actually people in the town who have protested against their own survival because they don't want to recycle the water like London did. London has done it for years, yet there are people in Toowoomba and different places in Australia deny the very solution to the problem that will affect them the most, which is the shortage of water. Because I don't know how much your house is valued when you can't flush the toilet anymore because there's no more water to do that. There's another way also of dealing with water, is taken out of the air within households or whatever, and plenty of those devices are simply available on Alibaba. You can Google it, water generator, water from the air. You can Google that, the Taiwanese make it, the Chinese make it, the Jews make it, the Israelis make it, and the Americans have one in Ecolo Blue, all generate water from the air. So I'm suggesting a Bradfield scheme, recycling wastewater, taking water from the air, all the problems that inland Australia is going to suffer because of water shortages and all the catastrophe that is. What they're going to do with all these people is the big question. All those could have been overcome if they, instead of spending money on pretending to do something about climate change, actually done something and taken action on the effects of the climate and population growth that we have. Because massive, a lot more people live in the middle of Australia than did when the Aborigines lived there, because the Aborigines moved around and the small tribes, and they moved around, mostly lived around the coast and around the rivers. They didn't live in towns off the river, relied on a pumping system to keep them alive and keep their toilets flushing. Australia does that. Yet, these people in these town councils, and for some reason, along with the governments and the corporate systems, are ignoring the very solution to the greatest problem they're going to have to come to terms with very soon. Because I'd like to know what they intend to do with all the internal refugees this is going to create. Because how many trucks do you need to provide the water for the sewerage system of any particular town? It's a really good question. Anyway, thank you.